Welcome to Rathalos Watch. Today I am going to be giving you 3 big reasons on why I believe that Nerscylla is going to be making a comeback to Monster Hunter Wilds. Today's video is all about the solid physical evidence I have uncovered over the past few days. No fan theories, just the real clues. I'll break down exactly why I am so confident that the beloved spider is set for a big return in Monster Hunter Wilds. If you are looking forward to Monster Hunter Wilds coverage or just Monster Hunter in general, then do not forget to subscribe with notifications turned on. Without further ado, let's begin. Reason number 1. I don't know about you guys, but to me, the Oilwell Basin locale seems to be the spiritual successor to the Sunken Hollow locale from Monster Hunter 4. Sunken Hollow sounds exactly what you expected it to look like. A giant cavernous hole that has multiple levels, and the deeper down you go, the hotter it gets. Oilwell Basin seems to be following that same design principle, or at least a fundamental idea. You have monsters like Rampampolo that hang out in the massive oil pits in the more cavernous areas that seem to be located in the higher up levels and possibly somewhere in the middle of the locale, rather than the hot fiery bottom where you can find someone like a Jerrican and the Black Flame during the Firespring period. Believe it or not, the same concept seems to exist in Monster Hunter 4, where both Gypceros and Nerscylla reside in the higher elevation of the Sunken Hollow rather than the bottom fiery pits. Keep in mind, Nerscylla is weak to fire, so being close to it is the last thing she'd want. If things get too intense or too hot, Nerscylla typically abandons her nest and relocates to other areas to find a safer nesting spot. In Monster Hunter 4, Nerscylla's nest is located in Zone 6 of the regular Sunken Hollow locale. However, in the Volcanic version of the Sunken Hollow, the nest does not appear in Zone 6 because the high temperatures make it unlivable for her. That said, large spider webs can still be found in areas like Zone 5, for example, where players can walk across them. This suggests that Nerscylla has left the locale, and she has left her trace, and she is now chilling either in the Primal Forest or Everwoods, which would mean that in Monster Hunter Wilds during the Firespring in Oilwell Basin, she would either go to the Scarlet Forest or reside in Oilwell Basin only when the fire and magma are not present. Also, do not forget that Monster Hunter Wilds draws a ton of inspiration from Monster Hunter 4, including the sand boats, Gemma herself, who is speculated to be the adult version of Little Miss Forge, who is also a smithy just like Gemma is. Both titles also start their initial questing experience in the desert on a sand boat. Meanwhile, Monster Hunter Wilds also starts off on a sand boat in a desert, where the game teaches you the controls and basic combat mechanics with Chotacabra as your tutorial monster, and kind of technically a first hunt after you get off the boat. Last but not least, if you go to the Primal Forest, there is a zone that actually has red flowers with red colored water. Rings a bell? Capcom clearly took a look back at the Primal Forest and decided to borrow some elements of it and shove it into the Scarlet Forest in Monster Hunter Wilds, and created Lala Barina and tied up the red flowers idea to her lore and even combat and ecology, which I think is quite fantastic. There's also red water in there as well. I hope you understand my point here. There are far too many parallels here with Monster Hunter 4, and it's really starting to get really difficult to kind of ignore all of this. I believe Capcom is trying to tell us something here. It's really not that far-fetched to assume that Oilwell Basin is a modern version of the Sunken Hollow that Capcom pushed to the next level. Both games have a normal version of the locale and a fiery version. Thanks to modern technology, Capcom can now dynamically adjust the atmosphere and feel and overall vibes of their environments, allowing them to reach their initial creative goals and elevate ideas from past titles to new heights. Reason number 2. Did you know that for the entire history of the Monster Hunter franchise, in its 20 running years, we've never ever had a game where a single entry contained more than 2 Temnocerans? Most people do not know that. Nerscylla was the first monster that introduced the Temnoceran classification in Monster Hunter 4, which was the 4th generation of Monster Hunter. Jumping to the 5th generation, Monster Hunter World and its expansion, Iceborne, did not feature any Temnocerans. However, Monster Hunter Rise introduced a new Temnoceran, Rakna Kadaki, though Nerscylla was still absent. And no, Shrouded Nerscylla from Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate or Pyre Rakna Kadaki from Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak do not count as additional Temnocerans, as they're just variants of the same monster. Just for quick reference, most games have multiple monsters in the same classification. Monster Hunter World, for example, had a ton of flying wyverns. I think it was like 8 or 9, 4 brute wyverns, and about 3 bird wyverns, and so on. And the case was the same for most older games as well. Monster Hunter Wilds introduced a new Temnoceran, which is Lala Barina, and now Capcom has a good excuse to finally let us have 2 spiders fighting for a turf war. Both Lala Barina and Nerscylla can live in the Scarlet Forest and fight for the territory. I believe the 6th generation of Monster Hunter is the right time to bring at least 2 Temnocerans or even more in a single entry. Monster Hunter Freedom Unite had like 4 different fanged beasts, including Kangalala, Blongonga, Rajang, and even the stupid-ass Bulldrum. Why haven't we had multiple Temnocerans yet? What is happening? It's about time for Capcom to give us multiple arachnids in a single entry, if you ask me. Reason number 3. You guys know me. I like to analyze stuff like a crazy person, and I watched the trailer many times over and over again, trying to see if I could notice anything out of the ordinary. Let's take a look at a specific part of the trailer real quick. There is one particular frame that really sticks out to me at about 1 minute and 32 seconds in. I'll zoom in here for a closer look. Right here, if you look closely, you can spot what seems to be a cluster of large spider webs, possibly an entire nest, or at least part of it, or just simply traces of a spider. You can see somewhat thick white and gray looking lines that happen to look like silk. Well, in my opinion, they do. Another interesting thing about this is that the spider webs are very high up on the ceiling, which means that Nerscylla most likely created her nest high up above so that the fire or the hot temperatures don't burn it away. Capcom loves to drop hints in their trailers. They did it with the young Kutku toy on Gemma's waist in the very first gameplay trailer back in June, and then they teased a Lala during the Dual Blades showcase via the armor set. So it's only natural to expect more teases and hints from additional marketing material. This time around, I believe they are teasing Nerscylla through the spider webs in the 5th trailer in that particular frame. Also, I know there will be people saying, oh, it's probably Rakna Kadaki because Rakna Kadaki likes to hang out in hot volcanic and fiery-like locales. Well, I hate to burst a bubble, but I don't believe that it's Rakna Kadaki, simply because Rakna does not create any nests anywhere, and she only uses her silk for combat and nothing else. She also wears the silk on herself and carries her children around on her own body. So wherever she goes, the babies follow her, so she never needs to make a nest or find a place to stay. She is the nest herself, essentially. Rakna Kadaki was modeled after a real-life spider known as the wolf spider. Wolf spiders carry a ton of babies on their backs and feed them as well, as you can clearly see here, and that was also Capcom's intention with Rakna Kadaki's design. One more thing that is worth noting is that Rakna Kadaki does also like to be in the desert. As a matter of fact, you can fight her in the sandy plains in Monster Hunter Rise. So, if she was going to be in this game and Capcom wanted to have 3 different Temnocerans, then they could have Rakna Kadaki in the Windward Plains, Lala Barina in the Scarlet Forest, and Nerscylla in the Oilwell Basin, with an occasional visit to the Scarlet Forest. In conclusion, there's just too much evidence for Nerscylla not to come back at this point, and everything is just perfectly lined up for her in Monster Hunter Wilds. One more thing I wanted to say is that I will make my final prediction in regards to when and where Capcom could possibly announce Nerscylla. Today is October 27th. We are exactly 4 days away from Halloween, and it's the same day that the open beta starts on all platforms. I could see Capcom dropping a Nerscylla teaser either on Twitter with a full render or an extended cut trailer version of the latest trailer with her shown in-game, similar to how young Kutku got revealed. If she does not show up on October 31st, then I'm just going to assume it is a monster that Capcom wants to surprise us with and only let us see it for ourselves once we play the game on February 28th, 2025. Previously, I was skeptical of her being in the game, but after the last trailer and all the similarities and parallels that I saw between Monster Hunter Wilds and Monster Hunter 4, I have a very hard time believing that Nerscylla does not exist, especially after seeing that web thing in the trailer. This is my final bet. Either this will age very poorly and I'll be made fun of, which is fine with me, it's part of the YouTube and content creation game, or this will be another prophecy fulfilled just like Lala and young Kutku were. Let me know what you think about all of this physical evidence and all the crazy parallels that Capcom is drawing here with Monster Hunter 4, and let me know if you personally believe that Nerscylla has a chance of returning or not for Monster Hunter Wilds in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe with notifications turned on. Peace out and happy hunting.